Thank you for joining Gift for this Tisha B'Av talk called Open Your Heart. There is a curious Gemara in Gemara Chulin which talks about an argument between the sun and the moon. By the way, when we say that, it doesn't mean literally the sun and the moon are arguing. Clearly there's a deeper message. But let's look at the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi pointed out a contradiction. If we look at the beginning of the Torah, it says that God made two great lights. But then the verse after says the greater light and the lesser light. What is it? Is it that there's two great lights, meaning the sun and the moon are the same size, they're just as powerful as each other? Or is it the greater light and the lesser light implying that one is smaller than the other? What's going on? So the Gemara says that there's a conversation between the moon and God. The moon says to God, 1 minute, you want us both to be powerful? Surely it's not possible for two kings to wear one crown. Someone has to be bigger than the other. To which God says, you're right. In which case, let's make the sun bigger and you can be smaller. The moon says, what? What did I do wrong? All I said was, you can't both be great, and now you make me small, make him small. Why should the sun be small and not me? To which God says, okay, don't worry about it. When it comes to the sun, that's only during the day. But the moon, you can see the moon during the day and the night. You will rule by day and night. The moon is not happy about that. The moon says, but who needs the moon during the day when it's broad daylight? No one needs the moon. God then replies, all right, fine. So you know what? That when it comes to working out days and years, we need the moon, and therefore you should be content with that. The moon says, yeah, but you also need the sun. You wouldn't be able to work out festivals. You need the moon and the sun as well. So therefore, it's not good enough. What do I get? To which God then replies, you know what? Well, you are going to be the small one now, and we're going to call righteous people after your name. Jacob the small, Samuel the small, David the small. The moon, however, is not happy with that. And then God said, you're right, I made a mistake. Bring an atonement for me for making you small. I shouldn't have done that. And Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says that when it comes to the new moon, okay, when we bring the offering for new moon, it says the offering's for God. Why is it for God? We don't ever see elsewhere when it comes to offerings it's for God, meaning it's an atonement for God. Right. Well, that was simple, isn't it? There obviously is more depth behind this, and it's a hidden passage. What is the depth? What's going on? And what's this got to do with Tisha B'Av? Well, let's look. When you look at the sun and moon in Hebrew, the moon is Levana and the sun is Achama. What's interesting to point is when you look at the word Levana, it seems to be the shorish, the root is the word Lev, a heart. And when you look at the word Chama for sun, if you change the way around the order of the letters, you've got Moach, brain. What we have over here is a discussion between the heart and the brain. Which is better, heart or brain? And now let's reanalyze this Gemara and we will see what's really going on. The moon says to God, there is intellectual, there's academia, and there's feeling things emotionally, being one with something. What's more important? Why is it that in life people think that the brain is just as important as the heart? Surely what really matters is the emotions, the heart, not the brain. To which God says, you're right. The heart is more important, the emotions are more important than just academia. However, if the emotions were to be considered big, if you were to be able to big up someone, big up an ego, then it may be dangerous, in which case, even though it's more important, I need you to be small, to have a small ego so we don't become big-headed. The moon, not literally the moon, argues and then says, but 1 minute, that still, people are going to think in this world that we're living in, that the emotions are not important. Surely, if you're now going to downplay emotions and heart and make academia the top, people will be mistaken thinking that the heart is not important. To which God says, no. You know what? That when people have an intellectual understanding, when there is light, you need to incorporate it into your heart. And also when people don't understand why things are going on, when bad things happen and we can't understand, there's no logical explanation for it, that's when you have the heart as well. Which means the emotions rule by night, i.e. when I don't understand what's going on, I don't have an intellectual answer as to why bad things are happening. And also the emotions are relevant when you do understand what's going on. You do need to be able to incorporate the heart in everything you do. To which the moon says, but you know what? People aren't going to recognize that. People are going to start saying that someone's great because, look how clever they are. You don't really see, look how big a person's heart is. When you look at all the successful people in life, they rarely talk about their heart. They talk about their achievements. And therefore, true, when you have your achievements, the emotions are important, but people aren't going to see that. God said back, you're right, actually. Well, you know what? When it comes to festivals, it's necessary for you to connect emotionally with the festivals. So you should be happy with that. To which the moon replies, no, you see, there's so many laws when it comes to all the festivals. The amount of laws on Pesach, the amount of laws on Sukkot, all these different things. People will get focused and bogged down with the details of the law and they won't connect with their heart. Once again, yes, you're telling me it's important to connect with the emotions, but people aren't going to see that. God then says, you know what? So when it comes to righteous people, when it comes to the big leaders of Jewish people, you know what makes them into a leader? Their heart. And therefore it's Jacob the small, Samuel the small, David the small. But the moon is not satisfied with that. Because the moon says, no, people aren't going to recognize that. All books written about the great leaders are going to talk about how great their brain was, how clever they were, how sharp they were. You're not really going to see many books talking about what a kind person they really are and about their emotions. Seeing that this wasn't good enough, God says, you know what? When it comes to every month, when it comes to the Rosh Chodesh, the new month, that will be a reminder showing how important it is to have emotions. So it's not that the sun and moon are really having any debate, but rather this is something deeper. This is a discussion about when we look at life, we ask what's more important, academia, the brain, or the emotions, the heart. And the world we're living in doesn't really seem to value the emotions. What the world values is the brain. Rav Dessler points out that there's a difference between the brain and the heart. A person can say, I have a brain. There is me. And I own a brain, and the brain helps me to be able to decipher stuff. But you don't say, I have a heart. Rather, Rav Dessler says, is I am a heart. My brain is external to me, and my heart is me. And the reason why we have the brain going to the heart, again, I'm not talking about a physical heart. When I talk about the heart, I'm talking about the emotions, the sense of self, the ego. When I'm talking about the brain, this is talking about the academia, the fact of using logic. And Rav Dessler says that the reason why we have a brain is because stage one is to understand intellectually what is right, what is wrong, what should I do. That is stage one. And then, as the pasuk says, "V'yadata hayom b'hashavos elevecha." Stage two is then to take it into the heart. So I'm meant to have my brain, know things here, externally, and then take it into my heart, or take it into me internally. I understand stuff externally, I understand the concepts, then to internalize it into the heart. That is the goal. Stage one, knowledge. Stage two, heart. Unfortunately, there's a disconnect between the two. We can sometimes know something, but I don't feel any emotional attachment whatsoever. And when we see this with smoking, I could learn, I know everything about why cigarettes are bad. It doesn't mean I don't smoke. I mean, I don't smoke, but someone might still be addicted to smoking because why? They've not internalized it. They know this is wrong. They know how terrible it is, but it's still not hit the internals. It's not hit them. It's just in the brain. We can sometimes have a disconnection between those two. Now, the solution is not to say, well, don't ignore the brain, ignore academia, ignore intelligence, and just work with the heart. No, because if you do that, you have nothing. We need to work with the brain, but we have to also filter to the heart. The Kabbalists say that the neck is quite narrow, because sometimes when you take the information from the brain, it gets blocked up, and it doesn't manage to filter all the way into your heart, into who you truly are, into your internal essence. In fact, there's an insult used in the Gemara for someone who is academic but doesn't actually take it to heart and doesn't internalize the message. This concept is known as a chamon noisach safarim, a donkey who's carrying books. That just because someone is clever, just because someone has all the information, doesn't mean necessarily it's going to affect them. We try to stuff people with all this information, but the question is not, does it go in the brain? Does it go in the heart? Does it go filter all the way through into who I am? The Rabbi Ramchal, he says, he bemoans this in the book Mesilas Yesharim. He starts by addressing that there are many academics out there are many people who study philosophy, science, the arts, and there are those who study within Torah, those who learn halacha, those who learn hashkafa, those who learn Gemara, those who learn Nach and Torah, all the people who study. But what he says is there aren't that many who actually focus on what's known as Mussar. Mussar is the work of self-improvement. Mussar is the work of knowing, stage one, to bring it into your heart, into yourself. How do I become one with a concept? Few are those which devote thought and study to the matter of perfection of divine service on love, fear, connection, and the other branches of piety. And he says, consequently, this study is left to people who lack intelligence until the situation has reached such a point that if you see someone who is trying to internalize a message, they're trying to work on themselves, self-development, you think they're lacking in intelligence. Why? Because the world that we're living in is an external world. We are living in a world of the brain, and it is rare that people really focus and give credence to what's more important than the brain, which is the heart. We know that the temple got destroyed, not due to lack of intelligence. It says that at the time the Jewish people were studying Torah. But what was lacking was that there was sinat chinam, there was hatred, baseless hatred. And sinas chinam is about the heart, not the brain. The Gemara says that in Talmud Yuma, that during the Second Temple they were engaged in Torah study. They were doing mitzvahs. They were even doing the external acts of kindness. But why was destroyed? Because of baseless hatred, sinat chinam. And sinat chinam is something which is inside. It's internal. It means there's some disconnection to the heart. There is a perplexing verse in Shemot which says, Va'asur li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham, concerning the tabernacle, the flat-packed temple the Jewish people had in the desert. It says, let them make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell amongst them. Surely the verse should say, I will dwell in it, inside the Mishkan, in this flat-packed temple. Why does it say amongst them? A beautiful idea. That what we see is that when it comes to the temple, it's not that God dwells inside the temple. Rather, the temple dwells inside the individual. What God is saying is everyone should have a temple for me inside of them. Where? In their heart. God wants to dwell inside each one of our hearts. He wants to dwell inside us, not the brain, because we have a brain, but we're not a brain, but inside us, inside of our heart. And now with this we can understand something else, another Gemara. The Gemara says that any generation that finds itself that the temple is not rebuilt, it's as if they destroyed it themselves. How can you say that? I mean, there's lots of Jews around. I'm not just taking all the blame myself, I mean, what? If I'm great, then there'll be a temple. There's other people also. But now we take it deeper. What does it mean to have a temple inside of yourself? It means that I am emotionally connected to Torah. I'm emotionally connected to people. I'm emotionally connected to my world around me. To say that the temple is destroyed means I feel disconnection. I feel empty. What we're now saying is any person who feels empty within inside themselves, it means that they still haven't rectified the situation. Their own temple in their heart is still destroyed. Another way of also showing this is that the prophet Micha, he says, Let me tell you what is good and what the Lord requires of you. He starts off, he says, Asot mishpat, to do justice. Ahavat chesed, to love kindness. V'tzanei lechet im elakecha, and to walk modestly with God. I understand do justice. I understand walk modestly with God. But he doesn't say do kindness. He says love kindness. What's the difference between doing kindness and loving kindness? Doing kindness means just doing the actions, external actions. Loving kindness, the Chofetz Chaim explains, loving kindness means that it becomes part of me, that I have the temple inside of myself, that I am one with the kindness. Could it possibly be that we do kindness? Someone had a baby, I get involved in the meal rota. Someone is doing a charity campaign, I make a donation. Could it be that we do acts of kindness, but does it touch my heart? Maybe I give tzedakah, but is it touching my heart? The Prophet's saying is that doing acts of kindness, externals, that's not the goal. The goal is to love kindness, to be someone who emotionally is connected to the kindness. There is a term used for someone who is disconnected from their emotions, from their true self, and stays inside the brain. And this is known as Timtum Halev, the blocking of the heart. And the blocking of the heart is really in three different areas. Number one, blocking from the true self. I feel like I'm not really connected with myself. I just, living in my brain space and just sometimes just staying there, not coming down to really being emotionally in touch with who I really am. And there's Timtum Halev with others, that maybe I help other people. Hopefully I help other people, but for me also to feel emotionally connected to other people, to truly feel people's pain, to truly feel people's simcha. If I can't connect to people's simcha, I put on a smile, I do all the right stuff, but to emotionally connect, then this is called Timtum Halev, unfortunately blocking of the heart. And lastly, also blocking to feelings of spirituality, connection towards Hashem, to feeling that there's something deeper going on in life. This blocking of the heart, this disconnection from my true self, the true temple inside of myself, disconnection from self and others and Hashem, is part of what the mourning is on Tisha B'Av. A few years ago I read in the newspaper about how in the sewers underneath Whitechapel they found a fatberg, and this fatberg was 250 meters long. What is it? Well, I'm not trying to be too crude here, but all the baby wipes and raw sewer and oil and anything which should not go in a sewer, which gets clunked together, becomes rock hard blockage, otherwise known as a fatberg, inside the sewer. And they had to chisel the way through this because it was blocking the sewers. And this disgusting fatberg, they took a cut of it and they put it on display in the London Museum. They actually found that eggs were starting to grow inside it, flies, and they need to make sure that that people don't smell it because it's very dangerous, and unfortunately it's also starting to decay. Gross. Why am I talking about that? I feel that the analogy when I think about Timtum Halev, blocking of the heart, is that it's not that I don't have a heart. It's not that you don't have a heart. We all have a heart. But just, I can't connect to it. I almost imagine if you were to have this fatberg and you take your heart and it's just shoved inside there. And my goal is I need to chisel away from all the external layers just to be able to get to my heart. How can I get, pierce through that to be able to get into my heart? Again, the Kabbalists refer to this heart as the Pintele Yid. I'm not sure how to translate that. The small spark of spirituality inside the individual. Everyone has it. It's not that people don't have a heart. We all have a heart. We are all actually connected. It's only that I don't feel connected because of this blockage. And our goal is to be able to get through that blockage, to break it down. So how do I melt away, or how do I chisel through this fatberg? So I think I've got a few suggestions to this. Number one is, don't say, okay, I'm going to leave the brain now, let me just deal with the heart. No, we have to study, we have to learn. I remember Rav Leff many years ago telling me the story about him, which happened many years earlier, that when he was a community rabbi in America, one of his congregants was going to go to Israel. And he went to Israel, and he came back and he told Rav Leff, I went to the Kotel, and when I went to the Western Wall, I just burst out in crying. I couldn't believe it. And I was so touched. So Rav Leff, when he finally got to Israel for the first time, and he was a bit nervous going to the wall, he thought, well, if my congregant, who's not so connected with Judaism, and he was crying, just think, well, I don't know, am I going to need to have, is Hatzalah going to have to be on hand? And they're going to have to call the ambulance? He got there, he felt nothing. It's just a wall, didn't feel anything. And he realised, you know why? Because I haven't studied the subject. I haven't really looked into what does it mean to have the Kotel? What was this part? What does it mean, the Beit HaMikdash, the temple? What happened there? What am I really missing? And then he said that he did lots of studying, and he looked up and he found out what it really meant in the times when there was a temple. So he studied this, he went back to the Kotel later, and then he did have the emotion. We do have to understand that the goal is the heart. Don't be satisfied if I learnt all the laws of what it is to become a giver, but then I don't feel that as well. Stage 1 is learn the laws of tzedakah. Stage 2 is then now feel their pain. Stage number 1, learn the laws about inviting guests. Well, as long as it's COVID safe. And then stage 2, feel that connection towards other people. There are lots and lots of laws when it comes to Ben Adam L'Chaveiro, dealing with other people, and also between laws and God. There's so many laws. Study the laws, but realize that that's just stage 1. Stage 2 is to get that connection. Thirdly, when it comes to the first kinnah on Tisha B'Av day, the first kinnah starts off with the word Shabbos. Rest, pause, quiet, remove distractions. So often we're just not in a quiet room by ourselves. We are always doing something. When I'm driving, so the radio's on, or I'm with the kids in the back. When I'm, anytime I got a moment free. Moment free equals a time to look at my mobile, to look at the WhatsApps, to look at the emails. Continuously, if something else is popped, I'll just watch a video. Continuously, we have more than ever, so many distractions. When we're distracted, we just don't give an opportunity for the heart to be able to open. The heart can only open when there's quiet. And when there's quiet, then stage 2 is then I might start feeling connected to my heart. But that can't happen unless Shabbos, to stop the distractions. And without giving too much of Tisha B'Av sometimes turns into a movie day. And it's a time where we just watch this class, that class, that class. I appreciate you watching this one. But there needs to be a time during Tisha B'Av. There needs to be a time every day, but definitely during Tisha B'Av where there's no movies, there's no reading. There is just a time to just sit and meditate and just quiet, to be able to think about what I have lost. What would a world have looked like in a world of spirituality where people are connected to their hearts, where the hearts of each other are connected, or I'm connected with myself and towards God? It just, there needs to be a quiet. I can read through all the kinnot, but the mitzvah of the day when it comes to Tisha B'Av is tears, and tears can't come unless there is quiet. Number 4 is, as I was really connected, the other one is investing time. People say that I can't connect with, I can't, I've tried. How long have you tried? If someone was to sit down for half an hour, not half an hour that they're tired and they're going to fall asleep, I've got all the energy, half an hour. For the first few minutes, maybe even 10 minutes, even longer, its mind will start wandering and I don't know what to think about and just hard to concentrate. But if you do it for long enough, then stuff will start coming out. But the heart can only come if there's time invested. Put in the time. And really, Tisha B'Av, there's nothing else to do. This is a day really where, again, we want to be connected. But almost every day, there's something called cheshbon nefesh, calculating what you did every day. But really, every single day, it's important to spend time just with just thinking about what I did and see how can it connect to my heart, or how can it connect to me? How can I internalize all the messages that I learned for the day? This is invaluable, but definitely on Tisha B'Av, when we got today, some time should be invested in that. Number 5, Rav Dessler always talks about the power of imagination. We have very, very powerful imaginations. Close your eyes. Right now, I'm on a beach. Close my eyes again, I'm on a roller coaster. Don't know what's going to come up. Just close my eyes. Imagination is incredibly powerful. We need to use and harness that imagination to our advantage. If I was to take, if you take about the destruction of the temple, it's very big, but imagine what it would have been like to actually been in the temple at the time. When we talk about, and Tisha B'Av is all the terrible things that have happened throughout the years. Don't just think about the big things, talk about the individuals. When it comes to thinking about what a world will look like with the temple, again, there are videos out there, but otherwise just to close your eyes and start imagining. Imagine walking through the temple. Imagine now seeing all these other Jewish people together, united. Imagine that everyone together with their lulav and etrog is just walking around, all Jews not arguing. As far as disconnection with other people, use my imagination to think about how they will be feeling. Fine, I go and help someone after, they had a difficult time, so I listen to them. No. Really imagine and think about the pain that they're going through. Really put yourself in their shoes and really just, again, invest time in it. Won't happen in a moment, won't happen in 1 minute, it takes longer. Really think about what it would be like if you were in that situation. And now, that imagination will be able to spur you to connect it to the heart. Point number 6, I find that this one helps me, is if we're so disconnected from the heart, I don't feel anything, then I can cry about not crying. There's a famous story that during the 6-Day War, when the Israeli army captured the Kotel, they captured the Western Wall, which we hadn't had for so long, there was rejoicing but there were 2 Israeli soldiers at the back, and they were chilonim, they were not connected at all. And the famous story goes that one of them burst out crying. And the other soldier said to him, "Why are you crying? We don't know anything about this. What is this? Some walls? Also, there's a temple or something? What does it mean to you? I thought you're chiloni. I thought you're not religious." And he said, "I'm looking at everyone else, and I'm seeing how people are connected, and I see how disconnected I am. I'm crying because I don't feel like crying. I'm crying over my disconnection. I am so disconnected that I'm not even feeling anything." We can try to get to that level of crying where, wouldn't it be great to be connected? Wouldn't it be great to feel connected to other people, to really feel experiences, other people's pleasures, other people's pains, to truly be one with them? Wouldn't it be great for me to be able to just be in touch with myself and to feel God's love? Wouldn't it be great to have that connection? For this I can cry. And then with all those, hopefully we can get to the level of crying. It says that crying really is what melts away the fatberg. When we cry, we have tears, it uncovers all the muck, all the emails, all the WhatsApps, all the videos, all the pictures, all the everything. Crying just takes that all away, and then I can be in touch with my heart. And to conclude, once a month, there is a bracha to say on the moon, and it's called Kiddush Levana. It usually takes place Motzei Shabbat after Shabbat. Again, once a month, you go outside, have a look at the moon, and you say a bracha. But there's a beautiful thing that we say. We say at the end, Yehi ratzon lefanecha, may it be your will to fulfill the blemish of the moon. Meaning that we should live in a world where people realize the heart is what's important. And may there be no diminishing at all in her. Let people realize how important the emotions are. And may the light of the moon be like the light of the sun, people realizing the importance of the emotions. And like the light of the 7 days of the beginning of creation, like it was before she was diminished, meaning like it ideally was. As it says, God formed the 2 great lights. In an ideal world, in a true world, we all notice how important the hearts and the emotions really are. The Beit HaMikdash, the temple, was destroyed because of sinat chinam, this disconnection from the heart, not feeling connected towards other people. But please God, if we connect to our hearts and we connect to other people, and we have ahavat chinam, free love, my heart is emotionally connected towards other people, connected to myself, and connected to Hashem, then please God, this will be the last Tisha B'Av. We should have a rebuilding of the temple inside of ourselves. All the best.